Hi again. I wanted to publicize a book that I've greatly enjoyed, always had it in my library but only recently read. Nathaniel West, The 1,000-Year Reign of Christ. Published in 1899 in its complete version. Apparently it came out in another version before that in 1889, according to the foreword. Here's what the back of the book says about the significance of this volume. The 1,000-Year Reign of Christ continues to be one of the unsurpassed classic works on the subject of the Millennium and the symbolic significance of biblical numbers. Dr. West draws upon his extensive knowledge of the Scriptures and theology to present an exhaustive discussion of the millennial period from both Testaments, including an insightful treatment of prophetic passages from Daniel, the Gospels, and Revelation. In the words of the preface, pastors, teachers, and Bible students will find in the 1,000-Year Reign of Christ a spiritual mine of rich material. And then it quotes from Wilbur Smith, who wrote several books on Christian books, including this one from which this volume quotes, Chats from a Minister's Library. Wilbur Smith says, "One of the greatest volumes of prophetic study ever published in this country, that is America, and in many ways the most learned work on this aspect of biblical prophecy ever to appear in the English language." And this was written at the same time as Charles Taze Russell was publishing his second, third, and fourth volumes of Studies in the Scriptures in the 1880s and 90s. Here's a mini biography of Nathaniel West. He lived from 1826 to 1906. He was born in Sunderland, England, and emigrated to the United States, where he received a BA and MA degree from the University of Michigan and completed doctoral studies at Allegheny Seminary. As a scholar, Dr. West's grasp of the vast literature of prophetic study and interpretation in both European and American theological circles was without equal in the 19th century. During 33 years of active pastoral ministry, he served 8 churches in the Midwest and New York State area, and was a noted speaker at many of the century's popular prophetic conferences. His writings include a complete analysis of the Holy Bible that went through numerous printings and served as a standard reference tool for pastors and scholars for decades. And I thought to read you a sample from the book, right from the middle of the book, which by the way is over 480 pages. Here's right in the middle of the book a good summary of his premillennial position. What we have before us, therefore, as the result of our investigation, is a series of great facts. That is, 1, that Israel shall be converted when the fullness of the Gentiles has come in, and the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. 2, that this shall be during Daniel's 70th week. 3, that the apocalypse presupposes the truth of all the Old Testament predictions and the New Testament ones concerning Israel. 4, that as a people Israel shall repossess their fatherland. 5, that an election, large indeed, shall be protected in the Great Tribulation and survive to see the Advent. 6, that a countless company of Jews and Gentiles, both, shall suffer death and pass into the peace of God and rise again in the first resurrection. 7, that Israel as such shall stand victorious with the Lamb upon the earthly Mount Zion and dwell in the beloved city. 2 references to Revelation 14 and Revelation 20. 8, that not only in millennial days, but in the final state, Israel shall be the root and basis, the center and the crown of the glorious kingdom of God. These facts tell us, therefore, just what the contrast is between the 144,000 and the countless company, that is the great crowd, in Revelation 7, 1-17. They assure us also that the Christian church will not be removed from the earth or become extinct under persecution, but reduced and suffering will also live to see the Advent. So obviously West is not a dispensational teacher, although he's premillennial. He does not believe the church will be raptured before the tribulation. They teach us also that the rapture is the rapture of the church and not of the 144,000, even as the prophets teach. And then he references Isaiah 45 17 to 22, and Ezekiel 40 to 48. Israel and the saved of the nations abide on earth, the nucleus of the millennial age. As to the dwelling place of the risen saints, that is, the Christians, who rise in the first resurrection, this much we know, that as Paul tells us, the glorification of nature begins with the resurrection of the saints, and as the prophets tell us, Israel's land becomes like Eden. The risen saints, moreover, reign on the earth. Revelation 5, verse 11. So far from this view being wholly modern, it is ancient and was the faith of the early church for 300 years. So if we do check the history of the patristic period up to about Nicaea, we find that this was the faith of the early church. And West spends a good deal of space in this very book detailing the historical teaching of premillennialism through the centuries. So if I were to do what I normally don't do and pick one book that summarizes my own views on prophecy, then we've had several persons ask us already, what is our view of the millennium? Who will live on the earth? This is, for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, this is a very big question. Well, West's view for me is the closest I've come to harmonizing all of the scriptural data. So if I were to pick one book on the subject of Bible prophecy, this would probably be it. I never advocate that we have only one book on any subject, but if you are going to have one, I can't think of one better than Nathaniel West, The 1,000-Year Reign of Christ. I'll link to another great teacher of that period, a converted Jew at that. His name is David Barron. I've done a lot of study of Barron over the years, and on many subjects he's matchless. So I'll link to a video we did about David Barron. Again, Nathaniel West, The 1,000-Year Reign of Christ.